You are listening to The Building Code, a podcast by Buildertrend where we talk all things technology and construction. Be sure to stick around to the end of the episode where you can find out how to be part of the Building Code crew. That's exciting, isn't it?
That's super exciting. It's a crew you want to be part of.
We just wrapped up our takeover series where some of our best Buildertrend users hosted the podcast, and I thought it went really well.
It went great. If you guys haven't had a chance to listen, definitely go back through and check those out.
But now they've handed it over to a couple of Buildertrend buds.
Interim co-hosts here.
And just for the people out there listening, longtime listeners as always, but if you're new to the podcast, I want to introduce myself. My name's Zach Wojtowicz, and I'm on the education team here at Buildertrend. Charley, what do you do here?
Thanks, Zach. I'm a data scientist here at Buildertrend, so anything and all things housing and construction, looking at economic trends and kind of where the industry is heading. That's my role.
Charley's the smart one.
I don't know about that. I like to nerd out on data for sure, though.
Today, we're going to be chatting with Chris Krebs from NOVUS Building Services. Chris, thank you for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and NOVUS in general.
All right, I appreciate the opportunity, guys, and I'm humbled to be here and excited to be a part of this exchange. I've been in this business, multifamily renovations and new construction, going on 16 years now. This is NOVUS's 10th year in the fabrication game. We service the super East Coast, Boston to Miami, out of 2 fabrication sites. A little bit about me. I was a student athlete at Virginia Tech. I have 2 degrees, summa cum laude in honors with one of them, and I've worked very hard to get to this point. I'm not a trust fund baby, and started NOVUS out of a garage. And I've had several different tiers of experience, some on Wall Street, some in the financial side, some in the true fabrication side where I'm actually did installs. I actually had a painting company out of college, and I've kind of pulled from all of those and tried to build NOVUS in the way that I thought it should be built from a grassroots perspective.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You've had a variety of experiences that you've gone through, and sounds like you tried a few different things along the way. How'd you end up in fabrication?
I had an IT degree in information technology, and then started working with a very large institution, John Hancock, and then actually started a company in digital imaging, of all things. That led me down some interesting roads for a lot of reasons. Then a couple years later, I was, broke, didn't know what I really needed or wanted to do. Just knew that I'd have a hard time working for somebody. But one of my best friends and one of my old teammates from high school and college said, why don't you give Planet Granite Marble a try? And we need a sales rep. It can be interim. I need someone, the owner needs someone. Can you come work for us? Here's your base, here's your commission structure. So I came and pretty quickly became the number 1 sales rep and started conceptualizing the process for ops and production, not just the sales side. Right. So
getting
that
the full
right.
picture, seeing how it all works end to end, and getting kind of a feel for what it looks like for that very specific need that is a big part of construction, obviously, but probably isn't the most appreciated in a lot of ways.
No, and it's heavy, hard work.
Yeah.
On the ops and production side. That company was bought out. Then the 2008 housing market crashed. They went bankrupt. And I said, well, I need to take my own clients. And that's kind of off to the running.
Took the opportunity.
Yeah. So at this point, you'd gone through the dot-com bubble and the housing crisis.
Right.
I'm noticing a trend here.
Yeah,
Chris.
talk about some diversity.
What's the next one? What should we be worried about?
Am I the cause or the effect? Right. But it's taught me a lot, and I've worked from a grassroots perspective. Again, I have financed, or I have debt financed, the growth of this company. So that kind of got me through here. And I can take you through the stages of that where we're at now, but that's what got me into the business.
Yeah, and I know you've really kind of diversified your offerings that Novus provides. A huge market that you're covering. You're up in Boston all the way down into Florida. Talk about a geographical variance of different needs for different customers for different places, and you're now doing full renovations. So what was that evolution like for you? Why did you look into kind of broadening your horizons away from kind of the specific fabrication piece all the way into just going in and renovating these large multifamily structures?
Yeah, I think that they're at the base of every company. There's capability and there's capacity, and they don't always line up. No, I believe we built a very capable company that didn't have capacity. So and as we worked up that curve, we're good at what we do, and the core of what we do is fabricate countertops.
Mm-hmm.
So as clients realized that, they wanted us to take on more and more scope over time. And then comes in the problem of managing that, not only what we're good at, but also the full scope over a larger and larger and larger geographic area.
So how does that change the way that you do business then? Obviously, as far as your systems that you're using for fabrication, moving into these full scope projects, I imagine that kind of is what led you to Buildertrend, or looking at technology to kind of facilitate some of that.
Absolutely. We went through a digital transformation 3 years ago. All right, when we built the second shop in West Palm Beach, and we went from analog to digital 5-axis CNC robots in the fabrication.
Charlie's eyes just lit up like, tell me about that.
Yeah,
I want to know more.
Right. Well, and what happens there is our capacity increases. All right, so then we start taking on more and more work. Well, now we have to manage it.
Right, the snowball effect there. Just keep building, keep building.
Right, and guys, we failed 4 years ago.
You said that so confidently. I've never heard someone be like, "We failed," but we learned a lot.
It has been awful and amazing every day.
Right in the sweet spot.
I mean that. And that large spectrum's not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
We've worked the last 3 years trying to thin that spectrum of amazing and horrible. But that's where Buildertrend came in. We evaluated several projects or several products to help us with real-time management that could also do, we could tie in our cost codes for accounting, our estimating, and then eventually we want it to be our source of truth. We want something that's the source of truth,
right?
That doesn't have to be a CRM at the moment, right? And so we want a source of truth for operations, production, accounting, and estimating.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we kind of narrowed in to Buildertrend, and we have thankfully evolved, and Buildertrend has allowed us to evolve within those parameters.
Yeah. So you've obviously you've decided Buildertrend's your path. This is the thing that you're gonna try and implement in your business. What was that experience like, going through the experience of trying to get people to buy into technology and software, and the challenges that Charley and I know that comes with in our experience kind of working at a technology company? It's hard to change habits. It's hard to change the way people have been doing things for decades in some circumstances. How did your team take to those changes?
Yeah, especially at the same time as you're completely revamping your business model at the same time too, right?
Yeah, it wasn't great. I say building a company, I never dreamed HR would be the issue, but I work for myself, and getting other people to buy into that dream is difficult.
Right.
It truly is. I mean, I had to start reading about past greats and leaders of all kinds from all countries to understand how they're motivating people. So it was difficult, and you could almost tie it into a curve, of a mathematic curve of revenue. So we hit this revenue, this set of employees was, man, we were killing.
Right.
And then the second we got over that revenue line and then had to implement policy, procedure, IT infrastructure, and a digital transformation, 98% of those people were filtered out. And I'm the 2% that didn't get filtered out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everyone's gone. Everyone.
Yeah.
And so that I don't know that that's abnormal, though, in the life cycle of a company that wants to grow. You know, people fear change. It's the truth. I mean, that's what movie, Wayne's World. Dark. I mean,
Party on.
We fear change. I mean, and that's the truth. And presenting that change was not easy. Most people didn't like it, and money didn't matter. It was capabilities that people just shut down. So we'd have to bring in, train, and bring up from the ground up new talent.
Right, and I'm sure that transition was pretty hard there. As one of the, kind of the big players on the East Coast, with the whole multifamily industry specifically going through kind of a major change with COVID, where do you kind of see that industry heading, and what kind of implementations have you made over the past year now to kind of keep up and adjust with that?
Well, I believe the American, it's not I believe, the analytics are starting to trend. The American dream is changing, and the millennials want the experience. I'm not even sure what that means, but they don't want a home ownership.
As a millennial, I feel like we can talk about it.
Yeah.
off microphone.
Right. The home ownership isn't the dream.
Right.
It's not the goal. It's the life experience as a goal, which is great. So that leads to more apartments, high rises, condensed living, basically what the rest of the world's gone through already. Minus large geographic areas, but condensed populations are going up and smaller, and that kind of fits into the niche that Novus is in.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So our clients, what we're seeing is we're going to have to drive them deeper because they are doing more, and then there's more opportunities. So our footprint is expanding, but it's also going deeper. And we in an analog world like pen and paper, even Excel, it doesn't work. It's got to be real time. I mean, and that's where the mechanical advantage that we get from Buildertrend and the real time, it's scalability and then duplicate.
Right.
Scale, duplicate. Without a product like Buildertrend, the equipment can do it. We can't.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. You hinted at the analytics, and maybe I'm stepping on Charlie's toes here, but you said the analytics are telling you that the experience for the newer generations who are looking for a different American dream. What do you mean by that? What are the analytics that you're looking at? And maybe Charley, you can speak to some of your background in data science.
Absolutely. I'm not pulling that from thin air.
Sure.
The TransUnion rental housing financial impact study is the most recent one that I follow. We also do several multi-housing events, specifically focused on Florida. And I'd love to hear Charley's opinion. Let me just say one thing. I saw this coming. I had help, executives in the multifamily industry, from hedge fund guys that own the properties and women to third-party asset managers that are managing the properties, that Florida was primed with jet fuel.
Right.
All right. So although it was a massive financial burden and tactically not the best thing to do at the time, we knew setting up in Florida and getting it right was going to be important.
Yeah,
and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that's a great call too, especially to your previous point there, where you're talking about, scalability and then being able to duplicate those same type of trends and replicate and optimize your process. I think the multifamily industry is kind of perfect for the idea that you have and the way you want to run your business. And I'm familiar with a couple studies as well, talking about the rise of the multifamily structure, especially like down there in Florida. We can definitely link those in the show notes, right? I've always wanted to say that on the pod. We'll link them in the show notes.
Shout out to the production team. We got to call the shots on what goes on the website.
Check that box, Charlie.
Yeah,
Boom.
for sure.
Yeah,
any chance I get to talk about charts and graphs and show notes is kind of the...
Charlie's going to write all types of data analytics to post with our podcast. We will be sure to include all that for our listeners out there. Ain't that right, Charlie?
That's what people came to the building code to hear about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what I came here for. No, I came here to talk to Chris, honestly.
Charlie, if I could say this, I'm growing too, right? I've never built a company before. And so what I used to do, and this is what I talk about, tactical and strategic error or strategic accuracy, I used to just do the numbers in my head, and I'd be like, if I'm off by a couple 100,000, whatever,
right.
We'll figure it out. And that is the wrong way to do it. And it got Novus, although positioned correctly, in a lot of trouble, and which we've dealt with. But I am now learning to not only trust my instincts based on my my experience and those around me, my trusted group of friends, but just to follow the analytics and then apply that to our financial modeling,
right?
Which now I cannot get away from. There's just too many zeros.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about data, right? Is a lot of times it does validate your assumptions, but then that gives you the argument and the use case to get everybody else on board, right? It's like, see, I told you, like, this is where we're heading. Now we have the data to back it. And that's also what I love about Buildertrend is, like, now you have all that data in one spot. We have the reports tab that you can go into. So as you mentioned earlier, it's like the single source of truth. There's no more, men lie, women lie, stats don't, right? Is my favorite quote. So this is where the rubber hits the road, is Buildertrend. All the data is right there, and you no longer have to rely on those assumptions. You can actually prove it out with the data.
Yeah, and we're in this process where we're entering all of our existing projects. We're actually changing the way we're entering them, which we can discuss. And we met with Nathan earlier today to start that process. We are building a historically accurate contract waterfall that'll be, then we're going to layer in a 3 to 4 year projection. But Buildertrend is that source of truth. And this will be deadly accurate when we get it right. And I'm from work we do, from our perspective, from a fabricator or a manufacturing company that has a service component to it. This is going to be deadly accurate, and banks are going to trust me for 4 years out, which will never end, ever.
Right.
Because the analytics that we'll be able to get from Buildertrend as the source of truth to fold into those financials.
I love that, man. You and I might have to take this offline. We can nerd out on that financial forecast for a long time. That sounds awesome, Chris.
Yeah, I would love to. And I'm learning too, Charlie. That this is, I'm on an exponential curve right now. It's been a long time since I've had to do that, and I love it. I'm all in.
The other part of it too, I imagine, with having different offices in different places, like we've talked about, the relationship piece, the management of the subs and vendors that you're using are going to be so varied. Your clients who maybe aren't always in the same state that you're working with. How has Buildertrend kind of filled that gap?
I'm glad you asked that. Right before we started here, Buildertrend featured our our ops manager for both fab facilities, Stephen Miranda, about a month ago, on an online post, and I asked him. I said, "What's your give me one thing and sweet?" And he said the app, the Buildertrend app. And then he started going into it, and I asked him to leave. But because I knew it, at that point, in all seriousness, he's an engineer and a diamond in the rough. But that's the truth, like things like the Buildertrend app. So with minimal effort and continuing education, we can get read and write access to the RIGHT, the right people, and then they can see in real time what's really going on at their properties. So a lot of these guys, they manage 4, 5, 6 properties from our clients' perspective. Now they can take a look at the app, see what's happening that day with real-time pictures, comments, and maybe in Spanish or Russian, but they're there.
Right.
And then, from an internal perspective, we have that estimating that ties into a budget, that ties to cost codes, that and allows us to have a singularity, a single unit within that project that we can drill down to and find out if we're making or losing money. We're not there yet, but the capability's there.
I think that's a huge piece in my own background in consulting, is getting people to even understand that vision, though, that it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in a week. It takes the end goal, and it takes a little bit of thought and process outlining to get there, but it sounds like you're on the right path, and you've probably made a lot of progress over the last year or 2 years that you've used Buildertrend too.
We have, and what's kind of blowing me away is from the Buildertrend side, you've got this massive, really smart company that's listening to Novus.
We do our best.
Yeah, it's amazing. And one of my truths in life is listen, relate, sell. And that's what I have to do. And I think whether it's my children, a client, or our partner, which is Buildertrend, I find it fascinating that you listen, and then you try and make adjustments for Novus. It's non-standard, and it's nice. It's just nice. And I always expect that we're gonna fall, and it just never happens. It just keeps getting better.
Well, I mean, from our perspective, with a company like Novus, who's had immense success, obviously we want to build the best tools for the best contractors and builders across the nation. So anything that we can do to help replicate the success that you guys have had, of course, we're going to listen to something like that.
Yeah, and I like the sharing. I'll think of the phrase, but it's selfless from my perspective to see Buildertrend, and it's just nice to see, guys. I've had a lot of people try and take stuff from me, from this company, and it's nice to see a collaborative effort.
Right. We'll appreciate the kind words for sure.
Yeah, we did not pay Chris to say any of that. I just want to preface the entire conversation on that.
Yeah.
And we are running a little short on time, and I think we could talk for hours about your background and Novus and where the industry is going. And I want to just end on this one last question. Where do you think the future of renovation and construction looks like? You've shared a little bit about the booms and busts of the markets, and I think it would be just a good way to wrap up kind of where you see things going here moving forward.
I think the East Coast, including New York and Boston, the renovations, so a lot of that product is hitting 7+ years. That was new product. And that's a renovation. That's a capital budget is every 7 supposed to be every 7 years to do a renovation, but it gets stretched out depending on market, quality of the building and the unit. I think renovations are going to spike up. I think there's at least one more 4 to 5 year burn on new construction that the money's already been allocated. I mean, we have one client in Florida alone that has 21 new construction, buildings, wow. 400 units, 350 to 460 units in their pipeline just in Florida.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's going to go well, and I think it's going to go well on the East Coast, Alabama and Texas.
Place the bets now.
Right.
Love that. Get that investment
Right.
in. Well, Chris, thank you so much for your time. This was a pleasure speaking with you about your business, and best of luck to you moving forward.
Yeah,
thanks,
you, Chris.
Zach. Thank you, Charlie. This is my pleasure, and my company, my time is always open to you guys, anytime, any place. Okay.
Appreciate that. Thanks for the time,
All
Chris.
right, guys.
Okay, thank you again for tuning into this episode of The Building Code. Make sure you subscribe and like wherever you listen to podcasts. Zach, go ahead and tell them where they can go out for additional information.
If you're on social media, join the Building Code crew on Facebook, and finally drop us a line at the podcast at buildertrend.com. We want to hear from you, suggestions, guests, topics, anything goes, Charlie, data, whatever it has to be.
A lot of data. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. We'll catch you next time.